Welcome, Selo, to our Mental Moments series, and to being part of this. I think this has been in the making for quite a while, and I've been really looking forward to sharing your wisdom and expertise. And speaking of wisdom and expertise, Selo, you really are seasoned HR executive. You've got over 25 years of experience, and that this is working with multinational corporates. And I know you've worked across the HR value chain, right from operations to OD transformation, leadership, and you've both been a partner to the business as an HR business partner and are currently leading up a center of expertise. And in Discovery, you head up the portfolio for talent, leadership, and learning. And you've got a wealth of insight and wisdom, and I'm really looking forward to it. I think just on a personal level, it's really been great to get to know you. And something that was really for me interesting is that you are a Marvel and DC fan, and you collect the icons. So I could see you at Comic-Con. I couldn't quite imagine it, but now I've seen this other dimension. And obviously, you are very family orientated, and being in the role of people, I guess it's not just your family. You are the custodian for looking after people in Discovery. So thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, Deirdre, and to the audience, a good morning to you all. Such a privilege to be having this conversation with somebody who's as passionate as I am about people.
Yes.
So I feel humbled for you to introduce me that way. And just incidentally, the children at home, this year's gift, one of them
Yes.
was a Build-A-Bear called Bruce Wayne, and by my nephew Aiden, coming
Yes.
with the birth certificate. So everybody would know who's Bruce Wayne. I'm also very keen on Batman, and so the bears actually both, you would know Build-A-Bear from.
Yes, I've taken my nephews there. It's a great experience.
Yes. So this year's gift, and happy to share that picture also when you share in the
Yes,
podcast.
that would be lovely.
Yes, and so it's quite ironic that we speak of that, because I think my sort of affinity for the Marvel and DC superheroes comes from wanting to make a positive difference in the world.
Yes.
And I guess being quite young when we lost our mum and my dad went through some mental well-being issues, we were raised by my grandmother.
Yes.
And the community. So the community
Yes.
of Isipingo that supported us, as well as then, family members. You latch on to these, or I latched on to these superheroes because they gave the hope better tomorrow. And that's always the story. So I think a lot of who I am today is influenced by those superheroes. And I often in leadership talks refer to them. I think of late, I did refer to one as well, speaking to, what positive difference one can make in the world. So I think they've played a major influence, which is quite ironic.
Definitely, and something to share, and some congruences in our team. We say, what is your superpower? Because we've all got that superpower. And I guess, just from working with you, it's about unlocking that superpower. And speaking about that superpower, this conversation and this discussion today is such a prevalent one. And I think we are still grappling with this whole concept of being remote hybrid working, and we know that it's here to stay. Interesting, when I was doing all the research around it, and obviously just sharing, and I have a fully remote team, is that most employees, this is according to Stanford, and it was done in 2023, so pretty recently, and it was published in Forbes, 83% of employees want that opportunity for a remote or a hybrid option. And interestingly enough, I was chatting to another champion in a big corporate, and they were actually changing their policy from being in the office to now offering remote hybrid because they weren't attracting talent. It was a major thing for people and their decision in joining an organization. So we know that it's such a key part of how we're going to be working, but we're still very it's still very much a new concept. We know that, before COVID, it was starting to pick up. COVID really just accelerated it, and we just had to get into it. But now that we have the option, there's so many things to consider. And I think your conversation around, not just from a management or leadership, but as a worker, as an employee, how do I show up and how do I use remote and hybrid working in the best way possible for my own mental health and well-being, and also to be integrated into the organization? So, when we're working remotely, how do we still maintain relationships? How do we become part of the community that we work in? So there's so many interesting questions and knowledge to be shared in this. And I think I'm going to just kick off with, what do I mean, just to give me some perspective in terms of someone becoming a remote hybrid worker and managing themselves and managing the communication and collaboration with the team. What do you see as some of the key things to take into account as an employee, and how you keep that, you foster that in your team and amongst all your colleagues?
No, thank you so much for that, Deirdre, for the question. And it's quite interesting when you are a leader and then when you have to put yourselves into the shoes of being an employee. And I'm privileged to be both, to lead as well as to be led by a brilliant leadership team here. My chief HR officer, as well as our group CEO and executive team, really great leadership that we have. But I want to talk about the aspect of being an employee within the hybrid or remote context. We, like you mentioned, had to very quickly, obviously change our practices when COVID, the impact of COVID was felt. And, we had to actually adapt very quickly. So a lot of us would have experienced, like you, we had to acquire new skills. Like we are having this conversation on Zoom. I know you and I meet a lot in person, which I love. I love the in-person meetings. But we had to very quickly acquire new skills to adapt, to this new world. And so what we found is that our employees and leaders, the world around us in the context influenced that we actually, we actually adjusted and adapted and learned those skills very quickly. So it was accelerated. So the ability to acquire the skill sets are there. And I think, human beings and our ability to learn and develop is quite key in terms of this adjustment that needed to be made. So yes, we became fully remote in that period, and successfully so. I think that lots of organizations, I think Gartner mentioned that productivity increased 3 times during that period that we experienced with fully remote and the COVID pandemic. But what we also saw then is that employees and leaders, we struggled with setting boundaries, right? With work and our family contexts. And so there was a challenge with sort of understanding where the boundaries were. And we had to then very quickly adapt to making sure that we look at holistically looking after our people and our organization, but taking into account that work was not 24/7 for the. So I think we needed to then integrate lots of the well-being and wellness initiatives into this fully remote working model that we had. And you'd recall, you yourself mentioned doing lots of programs to webinars to make sure that people were fully integrated, but at the same time that they also took time for their own well-being and wellness. And, Discovery being the organization that we are, very aligned to our purpose of making people healthier, enhancing and protecting lives. we also have taken that stance with our own people.
Mm.
So what I've found as an employee is that I had to make some adjustments to my own behaviors in terms of how I approached remote work, as well as then as a leader, I had to make that adjustment and adapt to how I lead a team that is working remotely, or now in the hybrid context. So, like you said, companies, we're making that shift to move back to a model that's nuanced now. And Discovery, we're very blessed and privileged to be able to still have a lot of our workforce that works hybrid. We also have, due to the nature of our work and our context, we have employees that are office-based, as well as then we have those that are fully remote. So we've got this three-dimensional model that's implemented. And obviously there's nuances across the business based on the nature of work we do. Being the person that I am, and you know me quite well, I love being office-based. Part of the leadership team, since last year, we made the decision to work more office-based. And you've engaged me here, so you know that's been something that I've enjoyed. And the reason for it was, I think, closely connected to some of the principles that we've developed from a hybrid perspective, really around, for me, man is gregarious by nature. I'm no different. I long for human engagement and companionship, but that's myself. So I'm speaking about myself personally. So I enjoy being in this environment, as well as having my teams here on the days where they are working within the work environment. And, we've thought about this long and hard. What we found during the pandemic was there was a need for more connection and, to have closer interaction and engagement, especially for our new hires. And new hires that join organizations, you need to try and establish that connection with them, as well as they need to understand how the world operates. But certainly what we found is that there's no better place than in our beautiful building and with our people, together with our people, to actually enjoy that relationship and the connectivity that we're looking for. I'm not saying that it can't be done virtually, because the fact that we're engaging here now virtually shows that you can engage. But what I have found, as well as then there's research that supports this, is that, you can have a great, you can have a great virtual relationship with people. But I think what we are finding is that our organization, our environment, is a key enabler to ensuring that, we are able to differentiate ourselves when it comes to the type of people that thrive here, as well as then what we find is that the collaboration, the innovation, the learning that is actually further amplified by being physically together. So I know that many organizations globally, and you would know some of the large fintechs that have made those decisions to go back. We haven't said all fully go back, but what we said is that we do see that it's beneficial for us. And certainly for me, I'll speak about myself again as the leader and the employee. I find that the engagement, communication, there's no misunderstanding when it comes to communication. There's, a complete translation to your team members and your fellow subordinates, if that's the case, when you are having these engagements. And so there's no sort of misunderstanding, but it's minimal compared to working virtually. And the other thing is that there's benefits for us in that we also enjoy here within our work context, and we've tried to make many of the lifestyle services available for convenience for our employees. So
Yes.
I enjoy it. Deirdre, I had a bit of a running injury as well. But I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
I'm so blessed. I think I mentioned to you, so blessed that there is a doctor on site, there's a
Amazing.
physio. We've tried to make things convenient for our employees so that, when they are here, they're also able to address other human-centered needs that they have. Not only
Yes.
that, I think with the load shedding and with the water challenges that
Yes,
we've had
yes.
at home, this has been heaven because,
Yes.
you have access to all of it, and we all enjoy that good cup of coffee. So for me, I feel like that's like heaven for me being here as well. So I think as an employee, yes, I agree. There's challenges that employees face, but what we've tried to do is within this hybrid type of context is try to make things more convenient and
Yes.
enable them to be supported in the environment. And there's nothing greater than, Deirdre, this from experience. You want to solve an issue, or you quickly want to get something done, and you pop around the corner and you find your colleague there, and you can quickly sort it out, as opposed to then setting up that meeting and,
Yes, and having that. I think that's
that
so.
bureaucracy.
It's
Yeah.
exactly, and it speaks, I was looking at some of the stats. So the American Mental Health Institute did quite a extensive survey, and they picked up that one of the biggest negative parts of working remotely is loneliness. And it's exactly what you're saying, that you can get up and you can find someone to chat to if you're having a challenge. You've got that communication and connection. And we are exactly that. Human beings we're wired for sociability, for community settings. So what I'm hearing is how you can plan, for those moments where you need to be in office, where you need to collaborate, where you've got a challenge, where you have to have a crucial conversation, to be in the space. And obviously then having the flexibility for maybe the days where you need to do some deep work and be on your own, you can work remotely around that. And I guess, in your organization, you give people those options, but still encouraging that coming into the office and building that sense of community and culture.
Absolutely. So our values, our purpose, our culture are key in enabling Discovery to achieve, success. And what I find is that I often talk about, I can't learn culture through a computer. I don't know how that's done. But what I do experience is that culture is felt. It's the lived experience here for us. And, we share with our new hires. We have about 80 to 100 new hires per month that join us.
Wow.
I absolutely enjoy that period that we have our induction. My colleague, the Chief Culture Officer, Amanda Potter, runs it, but we all have the opportunity to contribute to welcome, our new hires and to share a little bit about what we do from a discovery perspective, as well as then what some of the offerings are, that we have for our people. And what I've, sort of experienced, I think prior to COVID, there was a data point that indicated that people will take 3 months to decide if they want to stay with you in the organization, new hires. During COVID, and post-COVID, it's changed. It says
That's
that people will decide in the first 3 days if they want to actually stay with you as an organization, based on the lived experience that they're having during their induction and their onboarding. So they
Very
take about 3 to 4
interesting.
days to decide that. Yes, quite interesting, but I think what's true about that experience in itself is people need to engage with real people, so authentic human beings,
Yes, yes.
to to actually understand what the lived experience of an organization is. So you can have the blood marks on the wall in terms of
Yes.
words around purpose, values, culture, but people need to interact with other people in the organization to understand what that culture is. So we've got to provide, I think, opportunities for that engagement and interaction, which we we do try and pride ourselves in making sure that we create those experiences. Leadership plays a fundamental role in that. But you were speaking about me as an employee as well as employees in this context. And so many of us over the years, we subscribe to the Drotter pipeline. You remember? Leading.
Yes, leadership pipeline.
Yes, you would remember. And even in my previous organization, as well as here, I think we subscribe to similar. But what I find in that leading self, so leading self, I need to take accountability for myself as an employee. And we use a self-directed approach here in the organization. So what we encourage the new hires is to build relationships, get to know the team. With the onboarding program that we have, we connect them to a buddy, or we recommend them connecting to a buddy. There's very deliberate engagement that's structured between the team and the leader, the buddy, as well as then, having that opportunity within the first 3 months to complete some of those activities, which are intentional around the interaction. So I think it's important to do that. What we find is that people who are better onboarded, socialized, who are better better skilled, and supported to actually perform their roles in the organization, they're actually more successful at the end of the day. So what you'll find is that your rookie turnover will reduce because of this intentional experience of making sure that your employees have the opportunity to engage and interact and form the right networks and community. So for me, I find that a lot of that is self-directed. I need to take the accountability to do that. So even now, as I'm here, I'm accountable for my own well-being and my wellness. I think Discovery and the team, Stephen Teasdale and the team, do a great job in providing us a plethora of offerings. But the way we've also, structured that, I think, yes, there's a two-pronged responsibility at the end of the day. There's me as the leader, responsible to create that psychologically safe space for my team to be themselves and to come to me, if there are any needs. But I also need to take accountability for my own performance, my development, my well-being, and my wellness. And I think that's key as a remote or hybrid worker as well, because you're an adult, you need to take that accountability for yourself. And I think sometimes, we fall into the trap that I'm waiting for somebody to do something for me. And what we often recommend, I do it in a humorous way though, with the new hires, is to say to them, if it's up to me, if it has to be, it's up to me.
To me, definitely.
And yes, I think you and I have talked about that as well. But we actually encourage them to take accountability for their learning, their development, their performance. I'm very intentional around that, to say it's self-directed. So Deirdre, you are my leader. I'm not going to wait for you to talk to me about my performance. I'm going to discuss my performance based on what strategy and plan you have in place and how I can contribute to that. And, based on the skills that I have, what am I able to actually contribute to you and the team? So I think these are key things. And the other bit is if I need help. So if I need support and help, I need I don't have all the skills or the learning that's required for the role, I'm going to have to ask for that. So I have to put my hand up. a higher level of accountability that one needs to take for yourself and for your own development. And the other portion of it is to have authentic, honest conversations with your team and with your leaders and with the team members. Obviously, one needs to do that and apply sensitivity, right? It's a work context, but I think what's important is creating that safe space where people can be authentic and they can thrive, and putting my hand up if I need help.
Yes.
So what
yes.
I find and what I found also during COVID is people suddenly became very self-conscious about asking for help. And specifically when it came to well-being and wellness areas. And so we, from a discovery perspective, through Steve and the team, very intentionally had put in place, these sort of efforts and initiatives to encourage people to raise their hands, support. We have here a fantastic offering in Healthy Company, where they've got all of the well-being and wellness sort of support initiatives in place, be it financial well-being, be it physical well-being, be it spiritual, whatever those areas are. I can raise my hand and I can ask for help and support. And I think therein, if you're saying what is it as an employee that I should do, is I should actually take that accountability, and I should be clear around, the expectations also from myself, as well as then with my leader, understand the expectations from the leader and the team. So there needs to be that clarity, and there needs to be that understanding. And I need to ask for help if I need the help, or if there's gaps that exist. I need to then close those gaps. So what I find is that people struggle with that. So they struggle with what I'm saying to you. So making the time to have the engagements with your leader, making the time to be clear around what the expectations are from a performance and development perspective, and then asking for the help. So if anything, employees need to develop that skill of leading self,
Definitely.
And so in the new world of work, if I have to encourage, and I'm so conscious that there's 6 different generations in the workplace, I was told, not 5. So if you count the silent generation and the Gen Ys that are here, there's 6. So you suddenly realize that, you have to now cater for all of these different generations. But I think it's also, the other side of it is the individuals taking the accountability too. I have this saying, which I tell people, why are you waiting? Are you working for a retail organization? And I'll mention one with a W. I always do that. Are you waiting? What are you waiting for? You shouldn't be waiting. You should be taking that accountability and asking for help wherever the help is needed. So I know these are very practical, Deirdre, but I feel like we don't talk about it. We don't talk about these practical items.
Totally. And with the shift, before where it was very structured, you came into an office. Now we're working in a much more changing environment, different dynamics. It's exactly that. Like as employers have to evolve, so do the people who are working there. And having that opportunity to have flexibility, you also have to then spend time on how you're going to manage yourself, build relationships, as you said, take initiative, know when something's not working for you, and have that conversation. And that takes self-awareness. And I guess that's where it really sits on both sides to make this model work. And I think you've given a great example of a progressive company who's really setting the scenes in terms of how do we do this, and how do we do this well, and how we not just giving the option, but also the support around it, and then obviously still expecting high performance.
100%. I also want to say that, we're still on a journey, like all other
Yes,
organizations.
definitely. Yeah.
And we on that journey. We haven't arrived yet. What I love about our organization is we're continuously improving and innovating. We learn from what we do. We use the data and the insights to improve on the experience. And I've had the great fortune of supporting with improving the talent value chain experience. So all the way from how you attract to offboard. And it is work
Yes.
that needs to continuously evolve,
Yes.
because, as I mentioned, the needs of the workforce is
Yes.
changing.
Yes.
And
Yes.
traditionally, Deirdre, you and I come from the background of where it was a job for life in the past.
Yes.
You
Yes. Yes.
job for life, but it's no longer like that, Deirdre. I think the advice I'd give to our colleagues working in a hybrid or remote work scenarios is to actually take accountability. I think I spoke about that earlier. But more so, I would also recommend that they have a clear understanding of what their career goals are and what the definition of victory is for them as individuals. And once they understand what those goals are clearly and where they're aspiring to actually end up, in terms of a career perspective, and that can vary for different people. If I think of myself personally, I mean, I know I've added value and contributed, within the corporate space, and I am actually living my passion now and doing much more of the coaching and mentoring and development work, developing the next generation of leaders. And I feel privileged that I'm able to do that within my role. So I'm living my passion, but I also am able to do that externally for the many organizations and educational bodies that I also support and serve. So I think it's important that individuals understand what's that goal that they have. And it might not necessarily be a job or a role, but it could be this goal, like I gave you my practical example. And then it's about being very intentional around putting deliberate actions in place to achieve that goal. So the example I gave about coaching and developing the next generation of leaders, you need to be deliberate, well, certainly for myself, in making sure that those opportunities for that growth and development are created, and that you are actually then following through on the actions, to enable that. But if you think about the younger generation, and they could have aspirations towards a goal in terms of a role or a job, it could be that. It is about being very clear around what's the gaps that exist, where you need to now develop a plan to close those gaps. And many of our, astute listeners and viewers know that from a learning and development perspective, that might be the 70-20-10 principle, in that they need to get real life on the job experiences, as well as then the 20% mentoring, coaching, networking that they need in place. And the 10% could be the formal learning. But what's important, if you still learning and navigating through your career, is to have that conversation with your leader. Make sure that there's that clear understanding of what that development actions are for your current role, as well as then for the roles that you're aspiring to. What I also want to say to the individuals that are navigating their careers is that you need to also let go of past bias that we have about development, learning. Growth and development doesn't have to be in an upward trajectory. it has evolved now that you can develop and learn and grow through the breadth of experience that you can derive from moving laterally into roles. And we see that more and more. I think many scholars speak about matrix development. And there's lots of value in developing the breadth of experience before you actually are taking that step towards, upward, uh, development in a role that's more complex. So I think you need to think differently about careers. So that's what I'm finding. You need to think differently about careers. And I also see at home with the young children, well, they're not so young. They all above 18 and some still in their teens. But what I do see is that that mindset that we had and that bias about only developing in roles in a hierarchy,
Yes,
that is actually thrown out the window now, because
definitely.
like you, Deirdre, at home, many people are aspiring to have their own business and
Yes.
become entrepreneurs. So I think we need to have that mindset that you need to also allow people to be empowered to chart their own direction in life. But each person's trajectory is going to be different. And maybe at a point in time, you're going to want to have to develop skills and capabilities that's going to enable you to also build your own business, if that's the case. Or you're going to have a need that you move into corporate. And I find a lot of that, when we meet new hires also in the organization, or you chat to many people, it's so fascinating to see the number of them that have had their own businesses, or
Yes, yes.
been brave enough and courageous enough to have done that. And I applaud it. I think it's really great. We need more entrepreneurs in South Africa and globally. We need that contribution in terms of creating economic wealth
Yes.
for our youth, and obviously addressing the unemployment issue. I think we sit with the highest unemployment now
We do.
at 33%, I saw the other day.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, but I think we need more people that can think creatively and innovatively about jobs, employment, job creation. So we do need that. We do need that balance. But I think if you're in a corporate, then it's about taking that accountability, self-directing, developing a clear action plan with clear goals, and making sure that you act on the plan.
Yes.
So, you got to be clear around the time horizons. What
Yes.
I also like to share when coaching or mentoring some of the younger individuals is that not everything can be achieved in the short period of time.
Yes.
Learning and development does take time. You need to go through the actual experience. You need to actually build those skills and capabilities that's required through being immersed in the experience. And so
Definitely.
one of the key capabilities, because you asked me what is that, is there a skill, is there a capability? One of the key capabilities that the World Economic Forum identified in their report, yes, they had a majority of them were, which was fascinating, power skills that they identified. Or like people like to call it soft skills, but I like to call it power skills, because they are actually quite complex in acquiring and developing.
Yes. Yes.
It's not as straightforward as a technical skill. But one of those skills that they speak about, the skill for the future that everybody needs to have, is resilience. So you need to be able to be resilient. You spoke about, people having a high level of self-awareness. I think the both, they actually work in tandem.
Definitely.
Because yes, I think it's important for us to build that skill and capability around resilience, because the world is much more complex than what we experienced in the past, and we need to actually be able to to traverse this new hybrid context, the complexity, with having that growth mindset,
Yes.
that not a closed or fixed mindset. So I think having that growth mindset, so that's something else. And then I definitely think that one needs to also be clear around those technical capabilities, because if you can't get the foundational items right, that's needed for a job, you sometimes get disappointed.
Yes.
Because very often people get into a role and think, okay, now I'm going to start, where am I going to next? But you first need to deliver in that role that you're in and perform.
Yes.
And so technical capabilities will be important. But yeah, the one that does stand out in the World Economic Forum report for me is resilience and the
Totally.
need. Yeah.
No, I think it ties it. I think I just to wrap it up, and it's been so many insights. Even I've taken in, and it is really about developing yourself as not just obviously the technical's important, having initiative, being able to realize that you're working in a complex environment, so that requires your own self-awareness, your resilience to manage those areas of gray. So it's actually so many layers of personal development and letting go of how you think things should be. And then just to finally say around the clarity of, and I guess that's also knowing who you are as a person. I think that's really important as you are putting forward, what does success look like for you, and how are you going to get there, and then being really proactive in doing that. And I guess in that remote hybrid setting is put yourself in situations where you're actually immersed with the people, or you have the experience of being in the team with the real people who've been doing it for a long time. So use like the time at the office in a very proactive manner.
100%. I think the other piece that we often need to actually be clear around is managing of expectations. So I speak about this not just as a leader, but also from an individual perspective and self. We need to learn to manage our expectations, because we're not going to be able to build Rome in a day. It's not going to happen. And sometimes we need feedback. So feedback is very important. So you spoke about self-awareness and the need for us to be more self-aware. Coupled with that, and how we actually develop that is through getting feedback and getting constructive feedback. Lots of people use 360s or use various mechanisms, but I find what works for me is I often will ask my colleagues or even my team, was that okay? How did I show up? Was did I actually achieve what was supposed to be achieved? With whatever I do, I'll always go back to them to say, did I meet the requirement? And I think that's important to get the feedback. And sometimes we also need to, why I say resilient, we also need to get the feedback when things are not going according to the way we expected it to go. So meaning to be feedback fit and receiving that constructive, sort of insights about ourselves. And we may have bias, we may have, sort of those areas of opportunity for us to develop. What I appreciate is that I do have colleagues here with a lot of work. So this is a lot of work that gets done as you develop as a leader and as an individual, is that, they're confident enough to say, here's where there's an opportunity that you could do this better, or, you did really well here in this area. And I think you made a positive impact, or you need to develop these areas or skills or capabilities. This is where I see that you need to still grow. So I think that's really great if we can get to that point of having these constructive conversations around development with your leader, with your peers, with your teams. And I know people feel afraid, right? You feel afraid to send out because
It
if you're
is,
the
and it's a little bit of your ego and
the ego, that's what it is.
vulnerability.
Correct. So, but can I tell you, that's also another sort of skill that they say is quite powerful for those who want to be leaders in the future, and those that are aspiring to lead. It's also the ability to make oneself vulnerable, and you do that with the intent, so that you can create an authentic, psychologically safe space around you. And
Definitely.
I like to think, we aspiring here, to do that. But I'd like to think that people also will see the value of that in terms of what you develop as skills. People relationships, I did speak about it earlier, but people relationships also feature quite highly in terms of the skills that one needs in the future. And that's coupled with, the interpersonal skills. Like I said, the power skills or the soft skills seem to have taken the bulk of the priority on the list of those skills
Yes.
that they. You still have strategy there, so the
Yes.
ability to inspire others is also a
Yes.
skill, that's there. So I think you're seeing a shift from those skills previously that were very technically orientated to more people people skills, that's
Yes.
required
Yes.
to navigate this new world of work. And that's what they're seeing in the hybrid context, that these power skills, I'll call it power skills, are needed to navigate this new world of work. And emotional intelligence is very important. And coupled with the self-awareness, we did speak about that. We in Discovery, we have a Discovery person equation, and I think it's so beautifully crafted. And it speaks to, whilst we want the best people who are intellectually astute in terms of IQ, equally so we want people that are balanced in terms of their egos and the EQ.
Yes.
And at the same time, we want people that also, whilst they are intellectually astute, they live our values,
Yes.
specifically in terms of integrity and honesty. And we don't want to compromise on that. I think it's so true about human beings and the human experience now in organizations in this new hybrid context, because you equally need those power skills, and you equally need having the self-awareness, emotional intelligence
Yeah.
to navigate.
Definitely, even more so because you do have certain barriers now, and it's a more, as you said, it's a more complex environment. So I think there's so many great pieces of insight around career, and I'm sure our community can really take a lot of those. And I mean, from a company that's obviously on its own journey, but really setting the benchmark. It's been great sharing this time with you, sharing your insight. And just having a humane approach as well. I think that's absolutely lovely, bringing the balance of that. So Selo, thank you so much for your time and for sharing and having this great conversation, and looking forward to hearing all the other work you're doing, and continuing with the mentoring and coaching, creating those future leaders.
Deirdre, thank you so much.
Sorry, I'm just okay. Is it going?
Deirdre, thank you so much to you and the viewers and listeners. It's been a real privilege to participate in this, in this specific series. And I hope that those that are listening and viewing, that they've garnered some value from the session, and very happy to engage with any of them as well, if there are specific questions that they have.
Great. We'll
And
put up all your handles and your profile as well.
100%. I'll leave you, because I started with one of my passions around, or my interests around Marvel and DC. I'll leave you with something to share with the viewers as well. It's not about who you are at the end of the day. I think it's Bruce Wayne that does say that.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, it's not about who you are underneath, but what you do that defines you.
Yeah.
So that's really powerful. So I often think about that, especially coming from such humble beginnings as we did. It's not about who we are, it's about what we do that defines us. And I've chosen to be, as my aspiration, to build the next generation of leaders for Discovery South Africa and beyond, but to be a positive dealer of hope as I'm doing that. And I think there's many of the colleagues here who are on the same route or journey, and together we can achieve so much more. So all of us, wherever we are, I'd like to challenge us to do more to support the future generations to be successful in what is now a very complex world.
Definitely. Well, thank you.